The phone call that just changed everything. While Australians were sleeping, Donald Trump and Anthony Albanese had a conversation that could completely reshape our nation's future, and what they discussed about AUKUS will leave you absolutely stunned. But that's not all. We're also dealing with the heartbreaking aftermath of a police shooting that has shaken Victoria to its core, as we farewell a hero who paid the ultimate price for protecting our communities. This isn't just another political phone call between world leaders, this is the fourth direct conversation between Trump and Albanese, and sources are saying this one was different. We're talking about potential face-to-face meetings, nuclear submarine deals worth hundreds of billions, and strategic decisions that will define Australia's place in an increasingly dangerous world. Meanwhile, the funeral of Senior Constable Kevin King has reminded us all of the very real dangers our police officers face every single day. Let me tell you what's really happening behind the scenes, because the mainstream media is only giving you half the story. Trump's return to the White House has sent shockwaves through every major alliance, and AUKUS, that massive defense partnership between Australia, the UK, and the United States, is now hanging in the balance like never before. This phone conversation wasn't just diplomatic pleasantries, it was a high-stakes negotiation that could determine whether Australia gets those nuclear submarines or finds itself left out in the cold. The timing of this call is absolutely critical, and here's why it should have every Australian paying attention. We're looking at a potential face-to-face meeting between Trump and Albanese later this month, which would be the first time these two leaders sit down together since Trump's dramatic return to power. Think about that for a moment. The future of Australia's defense capabilities, our regional security, and our relationship with our most important ally could all be decided in a single meeting. But let's talk about what's really at stake with AUKUS, because this isn't just about submarines, it's about Australia's survival in an increasingly hostile region. We're talking about nuclear-powered submarines that would give our Navy capabilities we've never had before, technology transfers that could revolutionize our defense industry, and a strategic partnership that puts us at the heart of the most important military alliance in the Pacific. But here's the catch: Trump's known for his transactional approach to international relations, and there's no guarantee he sees AUKUS the same way his predecessors did. The defense establishment is reportedly on edge about what Trump might demand in return for keeping AUKUS alive. We're talking about a president who's made America first his defining principle, who's questioned the value of traditional alliances, and who's never been shy about demanding that allies pay their fair share. What does that mean for Australia? It could mean everything from increased defense spending commitments to hosting more US military bases, or even completely renegotiating the terms of our strategic partnership. Intelligence sources are suggesting that Trump raised specific concerns about the timeline and costs of AUKUS during the call with Albanese. The program is already facing significant delays and budget overruns, and Trump's team is reportedly questioning whether the massive investment of American technology and resources is worth it if Australia can't deliver on its commitments. This isn't just bureaucratic nitpicking, this is about whether one of the most important defense projects in Australian history survives the next 4 years. What's particularly concerning is Trump's track record with international agreements. This is a president who withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, renegotiated NAFTA, and pulled out of multiple international treaties. The idea that AUKUS is somehow immune from his transactional approach to foreign policy is naive at best and dangerous at worst. Albanese needs to understand that he's not dealing with the predictable diplomatic establishment anymore, he's dealing with Trump. The potential face-to-face meeting later this month could be make or break for Australia's defense future. Everything we've been told about AUKUS being a done deal, about the submarines being guaranteed, about the technology transfers being locked in, all of that could change based on what happens in that room. And if you think Albanese has the negotiating skills to go toe-to-toe with Trump and protect Australia's interests, you might want to reconsider that assumption. But while our political leaders navigate these treacherous international waters, we're also confronting a heartbreaking reminder of the dangers faced by those who protect us here at home. The funeral of Senior Constable Kevin King has brought into sharp focus the reality that our police officers face life-and-death situations every single day, often with minimal recognition or support from the communities they serve. Senior Constable King and his colleague were gunned down in cold blood at Porepunkah while simply doing their jobs, protecting the community and upholding the law. These weren't officers involved in some high-stakes operation or dangerous criminal pursuit. They were responding to a routine call, the kind of work that police officers do thousands of times without incident, until one day they don't come home. The funeral service this morning was a powerful reminder of the sacrifice that police families make every single day. While King's colleagues stood in dress uniform paying their respects, his family was left to grapple with a loss that no amount of ceremony or official recognition can truly heal. This is the reality of police work in modern Australia, the constant knowledge that any call could be your last. What makes this tragedy even more devastating is how predictable it was. We've seen increasing violence against police officers across Australia, with attacks becoming more brazen and more deadly. Yet instead of addressing the root causes of this violence, we get endless debates about police powers and community relations, while the officers on the front lines continue to face escalating dangers with increasingly limited support. The connection between these two stories, the high-level international negotiations and the grassroots tragedy, might not be immediately obvious, but they are both about the same fundamental issue: Australia's security in an uncertain world. Whether we're talking about nuclear submarines to deter foreign threats or adequately protecting the police officers who maintain domestic order, we're dealing with leadership failures at multiple levels. Think about the contrast here: Albanese scrambling to maintain relationships with international partners while basic law and order breaks down in regional Victoria. We're spending hundreds of billions on hypothetical submarines while police officers are being murdered with stolen firearms that shouldn't have been available in the first place. These aren't separate issues, they are symptoms of a government that's lost sight of its most basic responsibilities. The Trump factor adds another layer of complexity to everything. His administration's approach to international relations is fundamentally different from what Australian politicians are used to dealing with. The genteel diplomatic traditions and predictable alliance management of previous decades are gone. In their place, we have a president who sees every relationship through the lens of what America gets out of it. This creates a massive challenge for Albanese, who's never demonstrated the kind of strategic thinking or negotiating prowess needed to handle someone like Trump. The Prime Minister's approach to international relations has been largely reactive, focused more on maintaining existing relationships than proactively advancing Australian interests. That might have worked with predictable partners, but it's a recipe for disaster when dealing with Trump. The AUKUS discussion during their phone call reportedly covered not just submarines but the entire strategic framework of the partnership. We're talking about technology sharing agreements, industrial participation requirements, and the timeline for delivery of capabilities. Each of these areas represents potential points of renegotiation or even cancellation if Trump decides that America isn't getting sufficient value from the arrangement. What's particularly worrying is the lack of transparency around these discussions. Australians are being asked to commit hundreds of billions of dollars and fundamentally reshape our defense posture based on agreements that could change at Trump's whim. The public has a right to know what commitments are being made in their name and what guarantees, if any, exist to protect those commitments from political volatility. The submarine program itself faces significant technical and logistical challenges that make it vulnerable to political interference. We're talking about building nuclear submarines in Australia when we've never had a nuclear industry, training crews to operate technology we don't fully understand, and integrating systems that require ongoing American support and cooperation. If Trump decides that cooperation isn't in America's interest, the entire program could collapse overnight. Meanwhile, the funeral of Senior Constable King serves as a stark reminder that security threats don't always come from foreign nations or sophisticated military systems. Sometimes they come from criminals with stolen guns who are willing to murder police officers in broad daylight. The disconnect between our focus on high-tech defense solutions and basic law enforcement challenges is becoming impossible to ignore. The investigation into the Porapunka shooting has revealed systematic failures in firearms security and criminal justice processes that allow dangerous individuals to access weapons and use them against police. These are the kinds of fundamental security challenges that actually affect ordinary Australians every day, yet they receive a fraction of the attention and resources devoted to hypothetical military threats. King's colleagues who attended his funeral know that they could face similar dangers tomorrow, next week, or any time they respond to what seems like a routine call. They are dealing with escalating violence, reduced community support, and political leaders who seem more interested in international photo opportunities than addressing the breakdown of law and order in their own communities. The fourth phone call between Trump and Albanese represents a critical juncture in Australian-American relations, but it's also a test of Albanese's ability to protect Australian interests when dealing with an unpredictable partner. The Prime Minister's track record in international negotiations doesn't inspire confidence, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If AUKUS collapses or gets fundamentally restructured to Australia's disadvantage, we'll be left with massive financial commitments, no submarines, and weakened relationships with both our traditional allies and regional partners. The strategic environment that made AUKUS seem necessary isn't going away. If anything, it's becoming more dangerous, but our ability to respond effectively could be crippled by poor negotiation and inadequate preparation. The potential face-to-face meeting later this month will be Albanese's opportunity to prove that he can protect Australian interests when dealing with Trump's transactional approach to international relations. But given his performance in previous international negotiations and his apparent lack of understanding of Trump's negotiating style, there's little reason for optimism. As we farewell Senior Constable King and reflect on the sacrifice made by police officers and their families, we should also be asking hard questions about whether our political leaders are focused on the right priorities. Nuclear submarines might make impressive headlines, but they won't protect police officers from criminals with stolen guns or address the breakdown of law and order that's making our communities less safe every day. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Australian News CC family where the real stories come to life. See you in the next one.